In this Citizen Science for All event, we will be talking about citizen science in ethnobotany. Citizen science has been recently defined in lay terms as the scientific work undertaken by members of the public with or under the direction of professional scientists and scientific institutions. The recent growth of citizen science, the availability of citizen science projects and relevant data collection applications cannot really be overstated. Almost everyone has an opportunity to become a citizen scientist and to contribute to a scientific discipline or a topic of interest without necessarily having any professional qualifications on that particular topic. So the utilization of citizen science in ecology, conservation, and in more broadly environmental sciences are perhaps some of the most popular application areas for citizen science, with hundreds of projects where volunteers collect wildlife observations, records of local flora, ornithology observations, and so on. Citizen science is also receiving increasing attention as a way to collect indigenous and local knowledge, local traditional knowledge to better manage and conserve ecosystems. In today's event, we will explore together examples from citizen science from the context of ethnobotany. In fact, we will see in one of today's talks, perhaps one of the earliest citizen science examples which comes from this context. We have the pleasure today to have three brilliant speakers. We will start with Renata Soukand, who is an associate professor in the Department of Environmental Sciences, Informatics and Statistics at the University Ca'Foscari, University of Venice. Renata is an ethnobotanist with a background in pharmacy and environmental sciences. Then the second speaker is Baiba Pruse, who is a research fellow at, again, the Ca'Foscari University of Venice, and recently a visiting lecturer at the University of Iceland as part of a mobility leading course on citizen science and local ecological knowledge. And finally, the third talk will be given today by Eliana Rodrigues, also associate professor at the University Federal of Sao Paulo in Brazil. Eliana is the coordinator of the Center for Ethnobotanical and Ethnopharmacological Studies. During the event, Ali Shepard will be live tweeting it, and you can use Twitter to post your questions, or you can use the chat area here to post your questions, and Alice will transfer them also on Twitter. Due to the limited time we have, we will be able to only take one or maybe two questions at the end, but the speakers are happy to answer your questions on Twitter, or you can directly email them. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining today's event. Renata, we will start with you. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon to everyone. My apologies that you will not see me speaking, but this is for better internet connection. Do you hear me? This is
yes, Renata.
Question. Yeah, okay. Because I don't see you otherwise. Don't see your reactions.
It's okay. If something happens, we will let you know, but we can hear you very well.
Well, this work which I present is actually a work of a team of 4 researchers, and quite unexpected topic maybe for citizen science in a way, because especially in ethnopharmacology, when we submitted first this article to Journal of Ethnopharmacology, they told us, oh, you know, very nice, but this is not of interest of us because some guy collected something, and you know, ethnopharmacology was done at this time, it's end of 19th century, by pharmacologists. So this is nothing new for us. But actually, I think that the editor who replied me in this way didn't really look at the article because, well, citizen science is probably not that well defined and maybe not of interest for Journal of Ethnopharmacology, but from the science discipline perspective, this can really be considered, if not the first, then one of the first earliest true citizen science initiatives in which a aspiring scientist, because Michael Ostrov at the moment of collection was still a student, was applying to his fellows, asking to collect the local ecological knowledge, well, more specifically, the use of medicinal plants, which is quite a specialist knowledge in a way. So it was, of course, attitude of the time in a way, and the place, of course. He was not the only one doing it, this kind of collecting job in this moment, but he was the only one probably from the region whose efforts were preserved in a non-published way. So this is the region. If someone does not know where Estonia is, well, it happens sometimes even up to now. It's one of the Baltic countries. So I probably cannot show it. You don't see my mouse moving around, but the figure should be self-explanatory. And from the right-hand picture, you can see the regions from which Ostrov received responses. He did his call in the newspaper, and of course it's not very readable, and it is in Estonian, in old Estonian. He asked people to send him very specifically asked knowledge. So he directed his readers or potential correspondents in a very specific way, explaining how to preserve plants, how to send them to him, and also how and what to describe for the answer to be overwhelming for him. He got answer from 16 persons and actually more, but as he answered to them in different branches in newspaper, he followed the way his teacher, a folklorist, Jakob Hurt, was addressing his correspondence. So he asked for input through the newspaper, and he also replied to people through the newspaper. And he replied that, for example, Peter Metzla answered him, reported him 7 different medicines. And of course, not all the information you can see here in the table was provided in the newspapers, but we did a bit of background research to try to understand who were the people who were actually answering to a student at the time interested in local ethnomedicine. And you can see that they were of different ways of life. There were also some fellow students, but there is also his future wife, and also some few more women answering to him, which can also tell a lot about the gender more or less equivalency already by that time. In Estonian society, women were also very active. and contributed to enlightenment process, which was ongoing in the end of 19th century of Estonia. So just not to be sure I'm not going over the time. This is, do you see also the part which is down of the picture? Because I cannot see it for some reason.
No, I think we can only see up to the dates, 1891 to...
Okay, yeah, then you will see it. You see it. So, because I don't. This beautiful picture of Johanna Loringel is depicting the process. So Mikkel Ostrov published his appeals to newspapers. He motivated his correspondence through the same newspapers. He published his appeal. He taught them additional knowledge, and the people were willingly contributing to his work, knowing that this will contribute for the nation and for also for students' work. But the success of this collection was probably most probably because of the appearance of different factors. Like most important of them, probably the time of awakening among Estonians exactly at the same time. At the same time, there are societies in which most active people started to participate later were not yet formed or were in the beginning of the forming. So people had some time and willingness to contribute, because nevertheless, it's a lot of work to write up the knowledge, and not only your own, but they were contributing also some knowledge over the neighbors or of people who they knew in the village, who knew more of the plant use. The bottom line of the results is that the 16 people, or maybe some more, because we don't know if he acknowledged at the end everyone, because he had to move away from Estonia, and then the publication was not anymore possible. But he collected qualitatively better collection than Jakob Hurt at the same time collected from his 1,080 correspondence, while he did not ask specifically only medicinal plants, even though Jakob Hurt himself asked about medicinal plants. So the success of Mikkel Ostrov was very precisely designed questionnaire. And this is something which future citizen science could take account of, and a very well motivated workforce which submitted him the responses. Because if we look here, some people sent even 3 times. There were different plants and different uses. And you can also see that the last column is showing the reference to another collections which were not related to Mikkel Ostrov's one, and those have Also, there are some people who have been submitting to HURT and to EISEN who were collecting folk traditions simultaneously. So this work has been done in the context of HEIDI Project, Divided Generations, financed by European Research Council. Thank you. If you have questions, if you have time to answer now.
At the end. Thank you very much, Renata. So everyone who has questions can post them on either on Twitter or here, and we will collect them and we will let you know at the end if there are any.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very exciting study. Brilliant. I really liked it. So Baiba, over to you now.
Thank you very much, and it's an honor to follow Renata and then listen to the colleague Eliana, because I learned so much from a mentor, Renata, which is actually leading the HEIDI project. So I follow up here with a study co-designed a year ago. Just a second, I'm just going to take this one off. And my sharing will be two-folded. So one of the things will be related to the work done in the team here at Ca'Foscari, and also some inspiration stories I came upon while reading the Journal of Ethnobiology and Ethnomedicine, which I suggest to all of the participants to dig deep into, because there are certain links of ethnobiology and citizen science for sure. So here we are. Going to the next slide. And just briefly, because this has been sometimes discussed quite often between me and Renata and other of the team members, it's just basically, as for me, a reflection of the difference actually of the citizen science and ethnobotany or ethnobiology. And for me, when we were discussing these aspects, is that sometimes citizen science on the contributory level is kind of very factual, data-driven, whereas long-time observations, we can even categorize under this co-creative approach when we actually discuss with the participants of the changes in the environment. So, and of course, the field of ethnobotany and ethnobiology, well, here is Renata, which is one of the leaders of this discipline, but in my way of looking at it, is a way of creating a process knowledge, or basically it's changing observations of the environment. They change along the time, or they follow the changes. And one of the things we been doing with the study of in Latvia is looking at the ethnobotanical data among a community and actually categorizing between certain categories, which look not only how these plants are used, but also what type of plants are we talking about. And I'm going to the next slide to make it a bit more clearer in that sense. So plants can be categorized based on the way of sensitivity to humans. So basically, are the plants all right if the humans are close to, or they would rather be not disturbed by humans? So you can see these 4 different categories. However, also in our study, we recognized that these categories were more like an outsider's viewpoint, whereas we could have asked even more in-depth questions of how they view the plants in the sense of the sensitivity or relationship to the plants. But this is something for a thought also for us to continue on. However, we did approach these categories based of Cook work, is that some of the plants, like birch, for example, and the relation between birch and a human, is that you need to sort of wait for a certain time to take certain amount of sap, or the sap drink from the birch tree. And again, so even though it appears on a category number 3 on this left corner, we would put it on the number 2, which is needing a more human interaction. So also these sort of categories we did approach in the way how humans actually use the plants in this respective birch tree. But what I want to also emphasize is that during the talks with the people, And it is a worldwide phenomenon, but also it appeared also in our study that there are certain plants which were widespread and now they are disappearing. But what is remarkable about this is that we're talking about plants which are yet not having any legal status as rare. And so here we come with sort of a recommendation also for the nature conservation people, which is to be done and discussed even further, is that actually local communities can alarm it, make an alarm of certain changes before it takes place. However, in the case of caraway, it has already been the case around the communities where it is widespread and now it's disappearing. We also noticed that there's a certain element of storytelling of importance when we talk about these changes. And I'm also quoting here or referring to the work of our collaborator artists who actually draw this change, which we do not want to see in future, which is the cheese, which is sort of without the caraway seeds. And if there's, many of you know the tradition of cheese and caraway seeds on it and within, and not only for the cheese, but also for the buns, not necessarily, yeah, for the smell and for the taste effects. And what I want to stress with that is that what we also tried is to make the stories appealing to the people. However, there's still lots to do to sort of emphasize this to the nature conservation people and make this, as discussed with the people involved in this study, that this is a new matter. We always talk about conservation for rare species, but this is now we talk about common plants. And what I didn't mention about meaning common plants or widely distributed plants is that these were actually the plants which we noticed in the ethnobotanical data used widely, meaning these certain plants which we noticed widespread around are actually some of the plants which are used for many different aspects of food or medicine. However, again, it's not about restricting the uses, but acknowledging the dependency or the codependency, namely, between plants and people. When we go a bit further of the inspirational stories, I would like to acknowledge the work which I just read by Raivo Kalle as well, just published on the Popular Science article. And these types of effects is also stressed nowadays, because here I'm quoting also the work of 2011, but here's the work of this year, which actually emphasizes the same approach, saying that there is a need for stopping this sort of, I'm going to see if I'm correctly quoting the work, because of, yeah, it emphasizes the same thing, that the nature conservation must stop this disregard of the local population. And I'm basically inspired of these types of studies because they emphasize the need to work together. But again, what does it really mean? It's not only the conservation discussion or consultation, but integrating these knowledge patterns what local communities hold. And also the same is here in the case of Portugal, where actually the researchers so much quoted the sort of a negativity of that there has not been interaction while structuring these conservation grounds or protected area grounds. However, there are also good things as local initiatives can take place. And one of them were the Eco Museum, which is as an educational platform. And this actually leads to one of the exciting things, which I think also will complement the work of what the next speaker will talk about, is that actually children can be actively involved as ethnobotanists, and citizen science is about active participation. And what I really encourage you to have a look at this Austrian case, and I'm myself inspired by them, is how their collaboration with children made actually useful information later also published and talked about. So with the children, they designed the elements of documenting local knowledge, or actually this was the sense of knowledge for plant users. And moreover, they also did participatory videos, as you can see above, in case you want to see these outcomes. These are also QR codes for these videos. But what I wanted to sort of also emphasize this was the active participation, which I so much want to learn more to do it. And so I'm looking forward for the last speaker of today of participating ethnobotany. But here, because what I wanted to also show with this study is that actually you can challenge existing methodologies. And I think these researchers have also nicely done. And let me go to the, yes. And with these inspirational notes, I think I conclude here, and I will wait the questions at the end of the seminar.
Thank you very much, Baiba. What an inspiring talk about widening participation and how ethnobotany places emphasis to the local communities and challenges traditional conservation practices for not doing so. I'm coming from a similar background, so I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much. I cannot see any questions so far, so I would like to remind people to post their questions here or on Twitter. And then we can continue with Eliana Rodrigues. Eliana, oh, okay, you're not muted anymore.
Yeah. The screen. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to say that I'm very glad to be here today with Baiba again and all these new people in my life, Renata and Artemis and everybody that is here. So I'd like to thank especially to Artemis for the opportunity to share our experience in this project that brings a case study that is still in progress. It involves two traditional communities of Afro-Brazilians called here quilombolas, who live in protected areas in rainforest, and their actions in local conservation and development. Well, this is a project that started in 2015 and is composed by a team of 7 quilombolas, 2 park managers, and a technical team composed by 19 researchers and 15 students from Brazil and Hawaii. One of the students is here today, Tamara Sawini, and we call it participatory ethnobotany. Okay, but how it all began? In 2015, during a workshop organized by the parks managers, the need for projects focused on the compatibility of quilombolas in the protected areas was discussed, considering their survival needs from an economic point of view, but also considering conservation. The project, our project, has been supported by the 2 main agencies in Brazil and had all the authorizations to be conducted, which took about 1 year to obtain, so that the project could only start in 2016. This is the area of, in green, of the Serra do Mar State Park in the state of São Paulo, Brazil. And here we can see the 2 communities where the quilombolas, who are descendants of Afro-Brazilian slaves, lives. They live in quilombos and they are called quilombolas. I think it's clear now, right? So here we have Quilombo da Fazenda and Quilombo do Camburi. And you can also realize that both quilombos are in the same area of the Serra do Mar State Park. So here we have already some conflict, a situation very fragile. Well, at first, we contacted the local leaders to hold meetings with the communities. And José Pedro, at Quilombo da Fazenda, and Senhor Genésio at Quilombo do Camburi. And since then, several meetings with the 2 communities happened, and they brought their demands raised in the workshop I mentioned. One of them was the construction of a tourist trail of medicinal and aromatic plants to generate local income. They also asked for help in drawing up a plan to manage taboa, which is Typhia domingensis, an aquatic plant used in making handicrafts to be traded. the quilombolas, cannot extract this plant from the area where they live, since it is a park, but they could if they had this plan. It was also decided in these meetings to record all the uses of plants that these two communities have historically had, in the form of a booklet or books and films, videos. But what I would like to mention is that the new proposal of this project in terms of ethnobotanical methods, because the idea was that the quilombolas were the protagonists of all these actions. That is, they would conduct the ethnobotanical survey themselves with the support of the technical team, the ones from university and institutes, as I told in the first slide. In this way, from the meetings with the residents, we reached the following objectives: to develop ethnobotanical surveys with the participation of the local residents, and produce a conservation and management, and not only one, more than one management plans. It's wrong here. Because we believe that the active participation of local residents in recording their culture could enhance their empowering in decision-making on, first, the use of the resources available in their environment, and two, in managing their resources, increasing the chance of success in promoting conservation and local development. In this way, this project is divided in two phases. In phase one, were developed the participatory ethnobotanical surveys into both quilombos. And during meetings, the residents decided who would be the local partners. I mean, who would carry out the research within the quilombo. And they selected the local experts to be interviewed, such as medicine man, boat builder, and so on. The technical team performed the training of the 5 local partners on anthropological methods for collecting ethnobotanical data. So here we can see Gina Sil receiving guidance on how to interview people, how to make notes during the interviews. He is one of the 5 local partners. And also on plant collection methods by the botanists. So here we can see the botanist Ricardo teaching Catarina, a local partner, how to collect plants, how to press the plants. The 2 main leaders of the quilombos died in this meanwhile, and their speeches and knowledges were recorded through the booklets and the videos that I mentioned before, that the team produced during this process. And all this material, the videos, this video, and these booklets are available on the internet. I can send you the link afterward. The team also produced a video about how the project was conducted, also available on the internet. And some results about the traditional knowledge on plants are presented here, and they have been used in phase 2 of the project. For example, which plants could be used to develop phytocosmetics? And if in the future, the quilombolas would like to study or develop some product about considering the cosmetics or the shipbuilding, they have the data now recorded, included those belonging to the elderly who died, right? In phase 2, we are conducting the participatory management plans with 2 plants and the development of phytocosmetics. But why is participatory management? Why do I use the word participatory? Because we are considering the traditional methods to perform the field work. I mean, opening the plots, monitoring plant growth, in order to produce the document that will allow the quilombolas to extract the plants. And for this, we are counting with the collaboration of Tamara Ticketing from Manoa. Again, and I am getting into the end, we can see here the two phases of our project. The phase one already concluded. We performed the training on anthropological and botanical methods, were given to the local partners so that they could carry out the ethnobotanical survey. In this phase, 3 films and 2 booklets were produced, recording their knowledge. And the tourist trail was also built, as you can see here, in one of the quilombos. And also we have a store here where they sell the aircraft, the crafts. At this stage, we also carried out an ecological study on the conservation status of these raised plants. And we realized that a large percentage of species were found to be of great conservation priority. In other words, we really need management plans if we decide, that if the team decide to use most of these plants in the future. So in phase 2, which has been carried now, from this data, 2 plants were selected. The taboa, as I mentioned before, this aquatic plant, Typhia domingensis, for handicrafts, and banana from the stone, Philodendron martianum, for making a phytocosmetic abar shampoo. So the idea is to carry out the participatory management plans for the sustainable extraction of these 2 plants so that they will be traded to the tourists in quilombo stores, right? At the end of these trails. And finally, a green sale is being designed for the trade of these handicrafts and phytocosmetics in the near future. I am almost finishing, but just to show some pictures of one of the workshops on phytocosmetics with the women of the Quilombo da Fazenda. And to finish, finally, it's important to make it clear that we call this project as a participatory ethnobotany because the local partners took part of all the phases of it, from the construction of its objectives to the analysis of data and publications. And we believe that this new methodology is connected to the polemic issue about the intellectual property right of the traditional communities, since they can be trained to collect and record their own knowledge and decide what to do with it. Okay, and I would like to thank everybody, and just to say that they are really involved in the park management. I think Baiba has just showed some examples before, and I think this is a positive example. So thank you very, 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 very much.
Thank you very much, Eliana. Another very exciting study, and to see how the communities are empowered through your project is amazing. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening.